Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Todd Zelenka, Vice President of PCS, Preferred Computer Services, and I have been looking forward to this webinar for quite some time. I'm very excited about what we're going to be presenting today. Before we get started, let's go over some housekeeping. We are recording the event to have it available to those that request it. We know there's always a number of reasons people have to leave early, have a bad connection, log in late, or what have you, and they'd appreciate not missing anything. So we make that recording available. We also know that some people that registered to be here today had something come up that kept them from attending. So if we don't already have your email address and you'd like to be sure to get the recording, I'm going to put my email address in chat for everyone. Just reach out to me directly and I'll make sure that you get a copy of it. Now, our goal is to make sure the event is informative, educational, and entertaining. Participation is expected and encouraged. If you have a question, all you have to do is enter it into chat and we can answer it. Please submit all your questions that you have. And if you want, you can ask your question live. Simply put live before your question in chat and I'll call on you so you can ask your question and turn on your video. I enjoy the participation. Also, please keep yourself muted. Of course, that's a courtesy to everyone. We've all been on those calls or events where the dog starts barking, babies are crying, plane or train goes by, fire engines in the background, whatever, and they're all distracting. So I want to make sure our sound engineer's job today is very easy. He is a whole lot better to deal with when he doesn't have to mute people. So help me out if you can. I also ask for those that may have registered to attend or may not have registered to attend the event today through LinkedIn or did through LinkedIn but didn't go to the registration page. Please provide me your email address and chat to the host. I promise I will not blow up your inbox, but I do like the opportunity to follow up and get feedback on the event because we're always looking to improve. So since we got all that out of the way, let's get started. Today's webinar is why Gumbo is like cybersecurity, or why cybersecurity is like Gumbo. I guess it would help if I could read today. People have asked me, why in the world would I ask this question? And the answer is really quite simple. It takes the right ingredients to make great gumbo, and it takes the right combination of people, processes, and tools to make a comprehensive, total, secure IT service that provides excellence and peace of mind. I'm sure everyone here today would agree that choosing the right combination of tools and services is critical to having a solid and effective cybersecurity profile. And that just leads to a whole lot more questions like, well, with so many choices out there, how do you know what you should use? What combination works best? Do they integrate? Do they work together? Will my protection, detection, and recovery be good, great, or excellent? Does this tool or a combination of tools actually mitigate my risk? You know, every product demonstration I've ever sat through, and I've sat through my fair share, I promise, makes their product seem like it's the does-it-all, must-have solution. So how do you really choose? Well, I am joined today by Roy Barnea from Cynet to discuss some things that we at PCS considered when we were choosing the tools that we wanted to include in our comprehensive cybersecurity stack that we utilize in our total secure IT service program, and why. I'm going to say this up front. PCS is vendor agnostic, which means we're not tied to any one product. We're always looking for the best available to use for our client security. Now, this also means that our selected vendors always push for improvements and staying ahead of the curve, so they don't get left behind. And I am proud to say that Cynet is one of those vendors, and that's why I'm very pleased to have Roy with us today. Welcome, Roy.
Thank you so much, Todd. It's a pleasure being here. I'm excited for this session, and thank you everyone for joining our call today.
Yes, thank you. All right, so I'm one of those. Let's just jump right in. It's some of the questions that we already had that were submitted prior. Now, as a reminder, we do encourage participation and want to answer your questions. So do not hesitate in putting your questions in chat and mark live if you want to ask the question instead of having me read it. The first question that I'm sure is shared by many is, what exactly is endpoint protection?
So that is a great question. Basically, endpoint protection, as I believe most of you know, there's many layers of security as part of a security stack. Each layer sorry, has its own role, responsibilities, and methods of protection. Endpoint is basically the last resource. It is basically software based in most cases that is protecting the endpoint. Can be a host, a server, can be a workstation or laptop, even a mobile device. That is basically the end protection layer after all organizations layers, perimeters, DMZs, segments, VLANs, and then the endpoint.
Okay. So obviously the next logical question is, why is that important and do I really need it?
So of course, you need it in every security. The endpoint today is becoming much more important and even vulnerable. Unfortunately, all of us know that on the last year and a half through this pandemic, this even became much more than in the past. We are now facing a new reality through this pandemic. Today, every organization's perimeter has expanded to the endpoint space. People are working from home. Many are using a corporate device, some of them a personal device, but it is an endpoint solution. That endpoint is gaining access to corporate resources. Can be based on cloud, virtual private clouds, on-prem data centers, what have you. And that is important due to the fact that they are not only gaining access, in some cases, they even have sensitive data or content of the organization that we are seeking to protect.
Okay. Now, endpoint security in and of itself has really evolved, hasn't it?
Yes, endpoint protection, endpoint security is involved a lot. I'll surprise some of you. The old folks may even remember. The endpoint security started at the beginning even of the 90s. It was from the traditional AV. That is how long it is.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it won't expose how long we are in the industry over here. But it started really on the antivirus, and that is basically the first evolution. And as you can see on the slide over here, the evolution of endpoint advanced a lot, and it's the same as any other solutions. You see it on firewalls, email gateways, proxies, any other solutions. The reason for that evolution is that at the end of the day, the bad guys and us are doing uh, a race. It's like a cat and a mouse. It's a never-ending story. Whenever there is more unique, advanced, or new methods of attacks, we as security vendors, all of the security vendors in the industry are basically trying to protect against those new vectors and sometimes be more reasonable to make the life as hard as we can for the attackers.
Okay. Now, so that's that this diagram gives us that evolution of endpoint security. And I see, I remember, I'll give away my age. I remember antivirus as being the only thing that we had. Of course, I remember a Commodore 64, so that dates me.
Wow.
But antivirus then became, I see, antivirus to next gen antivirus. What's that?
Yes, and that is, by the way, something very interesting. When we're looking on the slide over here and we see the evolution of the endpoint or even the AV, still, by the way, portion of AVs are always maintaining an advanced mode, but we still see them today, even on EDRs, XDRs, and we'll talk about it. So AV basically was very simple. When we knew what type of attack it is, we created a signature. We knew how to define it and created a signature or added that to the database. Therefore, when we the software recognize that, it has the ability to alert detect on it. Next Gen AV was a little bit more advanced. It took it 3.5, 4 years from the AV to advance to the Next Gen AV. And basically, the AV was updated in a long time. 2 weeks today, 2 weeks, by the way, in cybersecurity, saying 2 weeks to update is something that it was acceptable on those 90s. Today, when we're talking about minutes, it's even harsh, but really it became much more advanced. So the next gen AV started two main interesting things. First of all, a weekly update. And in addition to that, even some capabilities that will address partial of the endpoint device control capabilities. You'll see it more advanced on the EPP EPP and the next-gen endpoint protection, but the basics ones even starting on the next-gen AV.
Okay. So so going from next gen AV to endpoint protection, how describe that evolution?
So that evolution, by the way, all the all people well remember, it's in parallel to the evolution of the internet and the industry. So first of all, we all remember that we had some dials-up or frame relays or ISRs, and then ADSLs and frameworks and cifranets and many other methods. Basically, since the endpoint or the end users were more open to the internet, we needed more capabilities, a much more holistic approach. And you will see that basic, I would say, behavior capabilities. I wouldn't say totally AI, but behavior capabilities started on the endpoint protection. So the next generation of the endpoint protection was really much more advanced on that. And that is the beginnings of the 20. And we saw the 2000, sorry, over the 19s. And we saw really behavior based. We saw, yep. There was a question?
Nope.
Oh, sorry. Okay. And we saw that it's behavior-based detection, machine learning, AI, even malwares were much more advanced. So it's much more holistic approach to it. It has several capabilities. The next-gen endpoint protection, by the way, had the most advanced capabilities. Not a lot changed from that, even on the device control portion of it. Meaning when you connect the ASP or Bluetooth devices or Wi-Fi as well, we see that on the next-gen endpoint protection as well.
Okay, so you got EPP to next gen EP, and then I see EDR. So what exactly is the difference between in the next generation and then the EDR?
That is a great question. And today, by the way, EDR is the most standard today. So of course, even next-gen endpoint protection and EDR, all the AV, next-gen AV, EPP still are part of that offerings. They're embedded in that. Every EDR today has next-gen AV capabilities, even advanced ones as well. But the reason for the EDR, which is endpoint detection and response, is the ability that we do not only create a single action, can be blocking, not only alerting and creating an action. So beginning of it was blocking or killing a process. Today, we need a sequence of actions that will be performed by the endpoint. Can be killing a process, can be isolating a host or blocking traffic. Basically a sequence due to the fact that malwares, ransomwares, and other methods of attack became much more sophisticated and had sequence of persistency technique or more advanced. They didn't stop on a one shot. Basically, the way that they worked as a method was trying other methods. They penetrated to the network or reached that endpoint and therefore started a sequence of attempts from that to expand or to bypass any security layers that they reach to.
Okay. And so endpoint detection and response is kind of the buzzword of where a lot of products are that are out there, a lot of tools that are looked at are at. Now, as I said, we're always looking for ways to push for improvements and staying ahead of the curve. And that's one of the things that I know that Signet does, because you didn't stop at EDR. You took it to XDR. What's XDR?
So XDR, that is a great question, Todd. XDR is an extended EDR, the next generation. It means we need extended capabilities over here. EDR is great, but I'll surprise everyone. It's a common thing in the industry. There's great EDR vendors there, but EDR is in the space nearly 5.5, 6 years now. Now we're living in the cybersecurity space, 6 years. There's so many new vectors, new methods of attack in 6 years. We need to advance from that. It doesn't really address today all the needs that we need to protect. Sophisticated ransomwares, malwares, methods of attacks that are using much more advanced capabilities. So if we'll break it down, as we can see on the slide, every EDR, there are great vendors out there, by the way, lots of them. Even XDR, a portion of XDR is EDR as well. But we see that the EDR has the next-gen AV protection and has the endpoint detection response with those sequences or flow of attacks. XDR is the way to address today much more sophisticated methods of attack. For example, it has the next-gen AV and EDR, as we mentioned before, but today we have a need to talk about network detection and response and to address that method of attack, or sometimes network is a method to expand the attack on the network. We can see capabilities of understanding behavior. So sometimes we need to understand behavior of users, processes, entities in the network. Sometimes the bad guys are trying to use or basically be on a disguise of a user and manipulate the security layers to expand their attack by acting them. The ability sometimes to detect that is really to understand the behavior. When we see out of the ordinary behavior by a user or an entity, we have the ability to detect that, and even deception technology. So basically, deception is a great feature that is protecting today mainly ransomwares and advanced malwares. It is the ability to create fake files or decoys, putting traps. We'll talk more about it as we move forward. And it's basically based on the honeypot technology.
Okay. So I know that in looking at all these, you've touched on them, but can you expand on network detection and response? And before you do, I just want to remind, if you have questions, this is the time to start entering them in chat so we make sure that we get to them before the end of the webinar. We're here to answer your questions. So do not be bashful. Ask questions and we'll be glad to get them answered. So again, can you expand on network detection and response a little bit more, please?
Yes, of course. This becomes today, I would say, even 40% of the advanced threats today that we're seeing are trying to use or manipulate or expand through a type of traffic in the network. Network detection response has the ability to detect that. Some buzzwords in the industry that we all know: lateral movement attempts, DNS tunneling, reconnaissance port scanning, and many more are methods that are used by malwares, ransomwares, to expand on the network when there is a security threat that God forbid bypasses security posture. It landed on any device. It will try to expand much more, reach different assets, more servers, more hosts, more endpoint solutions, and that ability is very important to detect that traffic, alert on it, and remediate. This is a very important feature to have. By the way, one of the most confusing things today is sometimes EDRs are mistaken or not advanced on those capabilities of network detection, seeing those traffic. Therefore, um, there is a lot of false positives. Some of them can be hardly to detect, and we need those capabilities to understand exactly, with a combination of user entity behavior analysis and many more. Those behaviors, AI, machine learning. We'll touch base on that as we move forward.
Okay. So just to kind of recap, I see Paul has asked a great question, so I'll get to it in just a second. So if I'm following the process, back when we first used computers, there's always been people trying to be a threat actor or a hacker or whatever.
Yep.
Trying to do damage, disruption, get information, whatever they can do to wreak havoc, if you will. So AV was they would put a virus. We all heard viruses. You got a virus. So then they got a little more creative and started doing other things, and that's what led to next gen. But also because of the fact that it had to be updated so much quicker. And so then that led to, well, now we need to actually be looking at the endpoint itself and not just wait for the red flag for a virus to show up. We need to be more proactive. And all of these things became proactive tools to react to the evolution of the attacks, because just like the defenses have evolved, so it's a result of the attackers evolving. So Paul asks, can you expand on user and entity behavior and analysis, please?
Yes. So of course I would love to. That is a very advanced feature. And before that, I just want to add something. Everyone here, I believe, knows very important in security. First is visibility, then the ability to detect or define exactly what is going on, to filter the noise, and really to correlate sometimes the event. And then, of course, according to that, we have the ability to remediate or create any type of actions, playbooks, etc. So to your question regarding user and entity behavior analysis, this was one of the most advanced capabilities today. And this is something that we're seeing in the last year. The most, I would say, advanced feature of detection that is really high on our detection capabilities. Much more detection are by entity than we even find from traditional next-gen AVs, EDR, and even the NDRs as well. It is really reaching something like 39% of our detection today of threats are being done by that capability. So it is a combination of user behavior analysis and entity behavior analysis, and I'll explain the differentiators between them. It's the ability to understand exactly out of the ordinary behaviors by user. And I believe you all know that bad guys are using or sometimes are disguising as a user as a method to penetrate the network. Out of the ordinary behaviors of users can be an attempt to access on a Sunday morning, or from China or Russia, which is not a geolocation of the policy of the organization or something that is recognized by that user accessing before. It can be now a user trying to get to a resource, an application, a server, what have you, that is not by his privileges, Active Directory privileges, MFA, single sign-on, and any others. Entity is by far much more advanced. It's those PowerShells. I believe everyone here knows that PowerShell of Microsoft, it can be easily a legitimate good operation, but easily can be manipulated to be a bad one. And the only way to define it is by basically understanding who, what, when, where, and how. Entity behavior looks at those DLLs, process, say behavior, can be now an application that is trying to get out of your firewall from an IP that it's not configured. Can be a PowerShell that is now running between your SharePoint servers to your Exchange that it's not allowed to do so. Even a simple application, cloud-based or whatever you have, even on-prem, that is trying to talk now to another resource or server that it's not designed natively to do so. Such out of the ordinary activities, behavior activities by entity, in most of the cases, can suggest on an attack or attacker in disguise. And there are by far much more, but the traditional one, DLLs, PowerShells, and even application or traffic between different VLANs and segments are the main ones that we see today as methods.
So in other words, they're going to find any vulnerability, any open door, if you will, to be able to try to get in. And once they're in, they're going to try to find ways to get anywhere and everywhere, because they're after. I mean, it's organized crime. They're after something.
Yeah.
You know, they're after data. They're after disruption. They're after locking your entire system down, encrypting it so that you have to utilize their decryption code in order to get your stuff back. So all of these attacks that you were talking about, I mean, and you just touched the surface on them. So again, I do love questions. Thank you for those putting questions in. Please, again, if you have any questions, do not hesitate. I see Lakeisha has put in here. I guess she's still looking at the list and wants to know what a little bit more about deception technology.
Yeah. Thank you, Lakeisha. This is a great question. Deception technology is putting traps at the end of the day. It's an advanced technology that is mainly designed to address ransomwares and advanced malwares today. Unfortunately, in the last 2 years, we're seeing that ransomware attacks are now focused or target on the small meat organization, not only the high enterprise accounts as well. I believe that mainly due to the fact that those high enterprise have a lot of budgets, their security posture is more advanced, they have the manpower or the expertise. Therefore, it's a much more a challenge for ransomwares to attack them. And therefore, small, medium organizations that are not with all the budgets, their security layer is not the most advanced ever, is an easier target. They manage to encrypt data there. They manage basically to sometimes use the unawareness and even exploit that. And some small organizations are even paying those ransomwares, unfortunately, today. So really that is the attack. Today, what we are seeing is that 71.2% of the ransomware that was in the United States in the last year were aiming to small, medium accounts. So what
Wow.
exactly is deception technology? So first of all, deception technology until now was a very, very expensive solution, and it was mainly designed for those high accounts. And EDRs do not have that. Some EDRs are combining with the third parties that you need to add and trying to fit that. We have that built in. It's putting decoys. Before explaining about the decoys, I want to take a step back. Let's understand how ransomwares really operate. When a ransomware, God forbid, bypasses security posture, managed to reach something on your device, your endpoint, or resource, first of all, it will seek for data of interest. Okay. Once it detects that, the first thing that it will do very, very fast, it will encrypt that data with any algorithm, key, encryption, whatever they created now, with something that is uniqueness. Basically, think about it that they have the only key for that door. There's no copy of that key. There's the only one holding that. You want to open the door, meaning you want back, they're holding your sensitive corporate data. You will need to pay in order to receive that key or that decryption capabilities from that attacker. What is deception doing? Putting decoy shares, decoy files, decoy hosts, and decoy users. For example, we automatically generate a fake Word document that we call it passwords, organization passwords, a fake user that we call it financial owner, and a fake Excel file that we call it a credit card list. Or even, let's give an example for the healthcare department. We can create now a file with patient list or SSNs and many others. Those are basically data that they're seeking, the algorithm of seeking before encrypting of ransomwares are those data of interest. The decoys are fake ones, they're not really one, and they're using the honeypot technology, meaning we capture that attacker on a fake file. When he operates, he really thinks he's still live on a production environment. He's not, he's stuck. He cannot even move from it. And this is very valuable because now basically we control them. We can see all the methods of that the attacker is using, attempts, next steps, and many more.
Well, and you brought up a very interesting point when we were talking about small to medium-sized businesses versus enterprise. You know, in the news, the ones we hear about, like the recent ones with the meat plants and the oil pipeline, those we hear about because they're the big ones. They're the major hacks or major attacks that have been successful, and those are the ones that get all the airtime and all the attention. But what we don't hear about is all the ones that are much smaller in size and scope, but are just as damaging because it's disrupting the business. It's causing businesses not to be able. I'll share a story. I know of a Huntsville medical practice that was a victim of a ransomware attack, and they lost all of their data. They decided that they could not pay the ransom, and it has taken quite a long time for them to recover because they've had to go back to hard copy data and enter it in. I mean, they lost everything. And for a small business, I think the ransom may have been like somewhere around $50,000, $60,000 or less, somewhere in that range. But for a small business, that's a lot of money to come up with to be able to get your stuff back. And the thing is that with the right tools, the right security profile and program in place, a lot of that can be avoided with what you're talking about, like the honeypot of giving them something that's so easy that they can get to, that's desirable, which is the data. They want the data to be able to sell it on the dark web. But then the reason that I guess common sense, they call it a honeypot because they get stuck.
Yep.
They once they're there, it's like they've hit the tripwire. So then the the systems are able to, and the tools and the monitoring and the management of the individuals watching those are able to lock that attacker down and keep them from going anywhere else, because they also are, it's kind of that like it says, deception. They think they're getting what they came in for. So they're going to spend a little bit of time there, and it buys that extra second or two to be able to react to it properly. So I just mentioning, and I love the participation. Cherry says that she had an actual siren go off on her work laptop one day, and malware tried to attack. Luckily, her boss was able to shut it down quickly, and it was scary because I guess she's in a field where client information could get out. So I know they have become one of our managed IT clients, and we're talking to them and getting trying to get all the cybersecurity in place, because there's no one anymore that is free from being attacked.
Yeah.
It's just that's just the truth. You can't avoid it.
Yeah, and if I may, I could give some recommendations over here. So thanks for sharing, Sherry. Is that important? And that is why, by the way, we partner with great companies like PCS. And in those cases, really reach out. Why? Sometimes, even if we shut off, or sometimes even if we see that we manage to restore back and it looks that everything is clear, those are very sophisticated methods. They are leaving behind something that will execute in the future that is now silent. You will not see now any network traffic. The network traffic won't detect it now, only when it will operate. Maybe they will wait a little bit. And that is another method, I would say, of persistency, and they will attack again. Very important to reach out to companies such as PCS. They have all the capabilities, not only when there is an event to prevent you, but if after an event, to verify that the environment is clear. There's no basically any threat left, or something that is hitting, waiting to be operating in the future.
You're taking words out of my mouth, Roy, because I always say you can't prevent an attack. Attackers are going to attack.
Yep.
But what you have to be able to do is protect. You've got to be able to defend. You've got to be able to protect, and you've got to be able to recover from an attack, because it's going to happen. Even the best of the best is not going to prevent everything. But like you said, it's so sophisticated. So I guess that really leads up to the next question. Do EDRs and other XDRs, do they fully eliminate threats? Is this that, like I said in the beginning, that end all do all tool that okay, as long as I've got this, I'm good?
So surprisingly, my answer will be no. And as a security vendor that we believe we're very advanced and we're very good, with all due respect to even Signet and any other of our great competitors in the market, no security solutions 100%. Today, we saw that RSA was penetrated and SolarGates was penetrated and many more, even security vendors. That is a little bit of a different story, but if someone wants and will invest and has the resources and budgets, they can bypass any solution. So to eliminate on threats is something that no solution in the world. You need, as you mentioned, basically the gumbo. You need the right people, you need the right solutions as much as you can. Basically, you need to find a security posture that is affordable according to each and everyone's pocket and will give you the best coverage you can. Dollar for your buck, I would say. Okay, the best that you can reach over here. Not doing anything or staying with old security postures or technologies is something that is your responsibility. You need to understand what is going on and reach out to companies like PCS that are up to date on the beats and the bytes of what's going on, to be educated, to understand, to see what's going on your environment and advance a little bit. Threat today is by EDR, and EDR is a great technology today. We're seeing that EDR doesn't cut it for advanced capabilities today. We need to advance for it. And we are a vendor that has EDR as well as part of our offering, but it doesn't stop. I'll take back for a second. I'm not sure if everyone is aware of the exchange attacks that was there. Many EDR vendors basically detected that, remediated, but what happened after that first stop? That attack used other methods of network or any behavior to expand because they were blocked on that attempt by the EDR entry, but the EDR didn't detect the persistency or other technique, and it basically enabled that to expand to other network, and it penetrated. That's part of the methods that the exchange has. That's not the main thing that happened on the exchange vulnerability here, but we saw that as a side effect of that as well. EDRs today are doing a great job, but are covering the file and the host user. Today, we need to address the user level, the network level. XDRs today and even SIGINT are basically protecting the pillars of the host, the users, the files, the network, and even environments as well. Environments, by the way, can be firewall proxies, Active Directory, and even more that is not mentioned in this cloud in this environment. What about your cloud environment? 365. Many accounts are going to 365. AWS, Azure, GPC, many others, even a combination of an on-prem as a hybrid topology, an on-prem cloud environment or SaaS environment is something that small, medium organizations are using a lot today. Therefore, the capabilities of remediation, the actions at EDR are very limited. Can be deleting, quarantining, or killing process, isolating, very simple. The attacks today are much more sophisticated, much more persistency techniques are used. We need the ability to create a much more advanced playbook. But not only that, one of the biggest values of XDR is the ability to tailor-made, to change the playbook, to adjust it according to each client. Every organization is not similar to the other. It has its own business cases, business needs, the way that it operates. That is, by the way, again, why we partner with PCS, which we had a couple of examples that we tailor-made together playbooks. We had an organization that needed something that is not out of the box by the vendor. Their business case is a little bit uh, different, and they needed a much more advanced playbook. You can see over here on the slide, they needed to kill the process, disable the user. After that, to isolate the host, disable all inputs from the host, block RDP sessions that was used a lot by them as well, and disable that specific user on an Active Directory. Those sequence of events are not only addressing the type of the method, even the persistency technique, and enables you really an advanced capabilities. That is the extension of the EDR's capabilities, one of them, but very important one.
Okay. Well, I want to remind that we're getting, we're after the bottom of the hour. So if you have any questions, please enter them now so that we can make sure that we get those answered. I don't want you to walk away and, oh, if I just asked this question. So you've mentioned the ransomware playbooks, and I want to expand on that a little bit. The playbook is basically when X happens, do Y, Z, A, B, C, a series of steps that are designated and as you said, customized to what the client environment is, what their policies and procedures are, etc. But there's a lot of things that can be done as soon as it's recognized because you've seen it before, and you know how to handle it. So instead of waiting for someone to go, oh, this is what happened, and here's what we need to do, A, B, C. Oh, we got to go D, E. There are ways through the automation, through AI, to have those just occur, and get you to point E. And then if point E hadn't taken care of it up to that point, then involve more intensive methods. So expand a little bit more on the playbooks, if you will.
Yeah. So that is a great question, and there's many examples. I give a couple of them, but just to clarify regarding playbooks. Playbooks is the ability to create those actions, but to create those actions in a flow that is protecting all those pillars today. That is what XDR do. But the value of it, that everything at the end of the day can be set to automation. Ransomwares operate very fast. We need the auto playbook to be automatically, and the sequence of events sometimes being a step ahead, I would say that automatically those actions are killing any attempt of expand or movement or execution methods and many others that types of events or threats can do. For example, we can create an automated playbook that is designed for a phishing attempt, which can be done, and we can change it. There is a difference on how harsh we want to be for the CEO of the organization. Sometimes he is using sensitive data and he needs a little bit less, but we still need that full visibility control on it. And if there's a simple user now that is basically through phishing attempt, we can create a different policy to him, but we want it to be set automatically. Another example can be, what if now we want to protect a resource, a database, an application that has sensitive data? Think about application of a healthcare organization. Operational wise, data wise, privacy wise, there's a lot of sensitive data over here that we need to protect. Those will be a great target for it. When we want to protect it, we want to protect it on all types of methods. Can be sometimes even to shut down the entire host automatically. But before that, creating many sequences of events. We can kill that user activity. We can kill the attempt of the traffic. We can sometimes even create remediations that can affect other third-party tools and many more. The sequence of events is the main way to address those advanced threats today and their persistency technique. The ability to tailor-made it is one of the biggest values of XDR.
Okay. So I see we're not getting, we don't have any other questions yet.
We have
So
a shy crowd today.
we got a shy crowd, but if you do have any questions, please enter them now, because I'm going to get to my main question, and that is that I know people are asking is, why did PCS choose this tool as part of our TSSP, Total Secure IT Services program? And as I said before, we are vendor agnostic. So for me to bring one of our products on to discuss this point speaks very highly of the product. And although this is not the only tool that we have in our tool bag, it's like having the best saw, and we know we've got the best saw, and it does more things than just a handheld saw, if you will. So we've made sure that we've picked the right tools to do what we needed to do. So looking at it from, Royce talked about the 4 pillars. Looking at the endpoints, looking at the network, looking at the user, and then the host. But taking it further from the endpoint of looking for malware, looking for exploits, looking for those fileless techniques, looking for ransomware, and being proactive in not just looking for it and identifying it and detecting it, but being able to respond quickly to it. Because the time of response is one of the most important elements. The attacks are going to happen, but it's how quick do you figure out that they're attacking, and how fast are you going to do something about it? And then through the network, spoofing, exfiltration, that's the breaches when they take data and they pull it out of the system. Lateral movement and scanning. Looking at the user, and Roy touched on this, but the fact that it can identify and it helps us be able to protect organizations where, if part of that user behavior analysis, that part of the presentation that we've talked about is, if I log into my computer every Sunday night at 3:00 in the morning, because that's just my time, I wake up, then the tool identifies that I'm on my computer at 3:00 in the morning. But if all of a sudden I'm on my computer at 3:00 in the morning on a Friday night, and I've never been on the computer at 3:00 in the morning on a Friday night, it can determine that I'm not usually there and immediately creates, hey, something's wrong. But it also looks at, where am I logging in from? Where am I trying to log in from? Because if I'm logging in at a time I'm not normally logging in, and I'm logging in from a place I'm not normally at, like Russia, China, or even Canada, or or Mexico, or what have you. If it's not my normal place, so it detects all of that so that it can be responded, so that somebody can go, hey, is that supposed to happen? And if it's not, let's take care of it. So then when you look at the deception, as we've talked about in detail, but having the decoy users, the decoy hosts, the files, and decoy network shares, creating things that are appealing to and make the attackers feel like they've got what they came for quickly and easily, so that they get stuck. And that momentary pause where they get into it, it's boom, hey, that's where they're, because nobody else in the normal environment is going to be there. So that's one of the reasons that we've used it, because of its holistic approach on those four pillars. But then let's look at the overarching, the whole big picture, if you will, of
And
why
I would
we go
And I
ahead.
would like to add to that, on the other side, one of the XDR's approaches, and the main reason that we chose PCS as a partner, before Patrick will move to the next slide, or he can do it in parallel, is that we understand today that even as an XDR, today any great technology is not enough. Human intervention is a must. And when we go with partners like PCS, that has 24/7 monitoring, team of expertise that are basically the eyes on the glass for their clients. And when needed, by the way, we have a backup to your team off a 24/7 MDR if something is out of that very up to date advance, and we see it from the beats on the bytes latest hour or anything like that. But that really gives for the clients, and a successful vendor is a vendor that has successful clients. And when you choose the right partner, basically, and you give the entire total security suites that you need, is that 24/7 capabilities on the glass, the SOC, the SIM services, the monitoring, and not only that, the assistance by the team of expertise when there is a need.
And that's exactly a great point, and what I was going to lead into. The XDR portion, we've talked about that in detail. But the response automation, we've talked about that, how that, there's the automated investigation, remediation, the custom playbooks, the incident engines, the ability to do things quickly so that you minimize the exposure, you minimize the threat, you minimize the damage. But then that 24/7 MDR really comes to play, where we, as part of our total secure IT solution for our clients, we've got eyes on glass 24/7, 365. Somebody's watching. Now, AI helps reduce the overall workload, because it's taking care of some of those things automatically and alerting that it's been done. It's been taken care of, so the person doesn't have to spend hours or even minutes looking at something that can be done like that. But then it allows them, so that if something major, critical, or a high or critical alert comes through, then their attention is focused on those more sensitive issues, the things that need to be taken care of, and having a tool that has resources for us to go to be able to say, hey, we haven't seen this before. What's going on? And we work through it together to make sure that it's taken care of. That's you can't even put a value on that, because most tools out there, they provide the tool, and you're left to your own, figure it out. You should know, you've got your cybersecurity certifications, and you've got your cybersecurity analysts, and you make your big bucks, and you've got all these people on your team, so they should know what to do. Well, another advantage of Signet is that they they're not just looking at our environment, so they're learning from all the different environments that they're in. So if they detect something that's happened in another part of the world, another part of the country, what have you, they're able to apply that to every single one of the endpoints almost immediately. I mean, as soon as it's known, hey, let's see if it's anywhere else. Let's fix it before. And you can't beat that.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, one of the major reasons, simply because there's so many different tools in the marketplace. And to get all these things together, honestly, I've looked at probably about 5 tools or more that would have to be put together to do what this tool is doing. So it makes us more efficient. It's just the logical choice. And it allows us to provide a higher level of security and response to best protect our clients.
Yep.
So, Roy, I don't see any other questions. I do thank you for your time and going as detailed as you have, providing such useful information. This is what I wanted to accomplish, is provide information and education of what tools are out there, what are the things that people need to be looking for, and why. Now, I promised it wasn't going to be a sales presentation, and I mean it, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention the services that we offer. So I'm going to go through this very quickly. We offer a comprehensive cybersecurity risk assessment. That's the first step, first engagement with any client, potential client, is to do this assessment, because we've got to have a baseline. We've got to know where you're at, what you've got. Is there anything already there? What are the vulnerabilities? Because if you don't know, it's kind of like going to the doctor and expecting them to give you a treatment without even having a diagnosis. So you've got to have the diagnosis. And then we can offer our Total Secure IT Services program, which is a combination of a managed service, your traditional managed service provider, a managed IT, with a managed security services provider. And I've combined that to be a total secure IT services provider. And the reason that I say it's total is because we've looked at everything that's known today and found ways to protect our clients against it. And if protect it, defend against it, and be able to recover if and when something happens, because it's unavoidable, it's going to happen. But we've also been able to take it beyond just the traditional. By those two entities, or those two that you would normally have two different companies working, we've combined it so that there's communication, so that there's interaction, so that nothing goes untouched or unlooked at. I'm excited to announce that we have also come up with a complete CMMC and or a complete compliance, because CMMC is not the only compliance out there, a solution that goes from A to Z. Not just getting you compliant, but also maintaining compliance and looking at the next audit, not the first audit, but the next audit in mind. And then, of course, we've always been our telecom and structured cabling. So we literally are set up to where we can take care of all of our clients' needs, anything and everything around IT and security. So that's the only pitch I'm going to do. Only presentation of what we do. Obviously, if you have questions, if you'd like some more information, I'm more than welcome to have a conversation. As I always say, there's no pressure, no obligation. I'm not here to try to slam something down, give you something you don't want. I'm simply here to offer solutions, find out what's going on, and offer solutions. So I do have some special offers that I wanted to bring up for those that have attended. We are giving a $100 gift card, Amazon gift card, when you schedule a follow-up conversation and keep the appointment. So that can be with me to talk about the Total Secure IT solution. It can be a combination of bringing Roy and his team to talk about the specific tool if you wanted a more in-depth a demonstration of the tool. But keep in mind, I don't sell just tools. I sell the entire package service, and SINET is one of the tools in my tool bag. But I also understand that there are companies out there that may already have their own tool bag. And they may be looking at, hey, I just want this really great tool. And if you want some more information, we will be glad to do that. So setting up scheduling a follow-up conversation, and that is going to be for the first 15 appointments that we get as a result of this webinar. So the first 15 people that put in a request for an appointment and we have that appointment, they will get their $100 gift card. We're also offering a 30% off of the cybersecurity risk assessment. The reason, the risk assessment is the starting point. You've got to know where you're at. And most businesses that I talk to don't have a full understanding of exactly where they're at right now with their security, with their overall cybersecurity. So identifying it, knowing what the risk is, being able to put a monetary number on that risk. What does it mean? That's what that assessment does. And we're giving 30% off of that. And then as our June promotion, as a result of this webinar, we're offering a 10% discount on the Total Secure IT Services program for people that mentioned this webinar, that they attended it or viewed it, for those that are viewing it after the fact. So great offers. We are here to help and answer your questions and be able to be an advisor, a counselor, a partner, not just a vendor that throws a solution at you and says, here you go, take it or leave it. So that's not us. So I do want to mention that I know that there was an issue with our email, and not everybody that registered got the email link, and I had to make sure that that got out. So I want to leave my contact information up and offer that if you join through LinkedIn without registering through our website, I would appreciate you providing your email. Send me an email. Let me know you were here. I promise, again, I'm not going to blow up your email. I just want to be able to follow up, mainly to request some feedback. We always want to know how we did, what we could have done better, what we did, what you liked, etc. I do want to thank everybody for their time today. Looks like we're right on time, so I'm going to hurry. Quick announcement, July 22nd. We will be having another webinar where I will be rolling out our comprehensive CMMC compliance offering. That is one you do not want to miss in any way, shape, or form. So thank you again. We've made it right to the top of the hour. Thanks for all our guests. Thanks for all the attendees. I just appreciate you taking your time and spending it with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.